Domingo German just threw the 24th perfect game in MLB history. Is it time to bench Cristian Javier? Join us today where we provide you with players that you should start or sit over the next few weeks on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, my better half, Matthew Ane.
Yo, what's up?
If you are listening on an app like Apple or Spotify, and you could give us a 5-star rating and review, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And if you're watching on the YouTubes and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes you to the channel, also gives you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and comment. But lastly, and most importantly, subscribe to us on the Subtext website, where we provide a one-on-one texting experience where we answer all of your fantasy baseball questions and provide you with in-depth fantasy baseball analysis, a lot more stuff than you could find just by listening to the podcast. But, Matt, I will let you take this first guy, but I do need to say, boy, oh boy, was Domingo German perfect. And I got to do a little spin for you guys, because tell me who else has a Domingo German jersey ready to go besides your boy. Matt, let me know. Can we see it? Can everyone see?
Yeah, we could see the terrible
Domingo
jersey.
German action?
Yeah, we could see it.
Okay. But who else do you guys know? Comment if you know anyone else that has a Domingo German jersey ready to go. But my brother, I feel like I've talked enough. Take it away.
Yeah, no problem. That's the one he also goes and plays softball in, because it's going to be just like how I'm going to treat it for next week. But let's talk about it. My guy went, had a perfect game yesterday.
That's the Jacoby Ellsbury one.
Exactly. That's what I was wearing yesterday. Anyway, Domingo German had a really great game yesterday, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of type game for him. Well done. But, let's talk about the fantasy implications, right? It doesn't change anything for me in terms of an outlook for Domingo German. I don't foresee me wanting to run out there and go, I'm always turning the corner. No, he just was so locked in yesterday. He accomplished something unthinkable, and I don't think this is any sign of him doing anything great for long-term purposes. So Domingo German is still going to be a streaming candidate. And one of the reasons we're talking about him, not only because he had the perfect game, but because he's on the top of everybody's forefront of their mind right now. And it's, I should go out there and get him. No, it's actually a hold. He's going up against Baltimore next week, and Dom will give you these advanced stats of why he probably could. But for me, I'm looking at a different perspective as I can't really trust him. The last 2 starts have been absolutely atrocious. He only made it 3 innings in 2, and both of those he got absolutely lit up with a 21 ERA and a 31 ERA. Then had a few nice starts, but then had a 5 ERA, then had a nice start, another nice start, and another nice start. But when he gets blown up, he gets blown the hell up. And on top of that, too, on the year, he's batting he has an ERA of 4.54 and a FIP of 4.86. So, German's all surrounding stats aren't showing good peripherals or good future for German. He's really just, some games he's brilliant, and other games he's going to destroy your week in the pitching category for ERA. I just don't trust him overall. The one thing I can say is he's almost at a K per 9 on the season. So in a pinch, if you need to win the week going into the weekend, he's got a Saturday or Sunday start or a Friday start. He's somebody I'll roll out. But for next week going up against Baltimore, I'm not starting him. So that's just where I'm at. And that's Domingo German.
Yeah, just let me start by saying congratulations to Domingo German. As Matt mentioned, that's a once in a lifetime, kind of start. There's only literally been 24 perfect games in MLB history out of, I believe tens of thousands of games. This baseball has been going on for, 100 years plus at this point. So the fact that there's only been 24 perfect games, says a lot. I know there's everyone like Philip Humber and guys like that, that have thrown perfect games that aren't great. I know Domingo German is not great, but what he did was great. So congratulations to him and the Yankees organization. But from a fantasy baseball perspective, I hear why Matt's saying, yeah, let's not start him against Baltimore. But you know what? It's a 2-start week for him on next week. He gets Baltimore on Monday, and then on Saturday he gets the Cubs. Cubs haven't been as good as they were at the beginning of the season. And with Baltimore, I'm going to just throw out some stats, here, and just kind of maybe, make my boy Domingo German sound a little bit more like a guy that you could grab to start for those 2 starts next week. Over the last 7 days, the Orioles are only hitting 241 as a team. They've 5-5 over their last 10 games. They only hit 253 against right-handed pitchers on the season. And away from Camden Yards, they only hit 246, and they're playing Domingo German and the Yankees at Yankee Stadium next week. So I think Domingo German with those 2 starts next week, he's not a must-start candidate, but hey, you know what? As Matt mentioned, when Domingo German gets hit, he does get hit hard, and I think he got those out of the way. I remember, I think it was Roger Clemens that said something along the lines, if you make 30 starts a year, there's going to be 5 starts where you're absolutely unhittable. There's going to be 5 starts where you don't have it at all, and then the other 20 starts are basically up to you as a pitcher to, do what you can do. So, I think Domingo German got at least 2 of those 5 starts out of the way where he absolutely won't have it, and I think he'll have better luck next week against, the Orioles and the Cubs. But let's get into the nitty gritty here. The way that we're going to do this, guys, is we're going to talk about, a couple of guys here up next that you probably should be starting. And then we got some really big names towards the bottom half of this episode that are, sit candidates. We're going to kind of rock back and forth. So we'll be sure to mention who is a start and who is a sit going forward. But the next guy we're going to talk about is an absolutely must start. And it's Dylan Cease because, oh, man, Dylan Cease is just, been back to his normal self. He's doing pretty good. I think we talked about him in one of our, must trade for episodes saying that, hey, you know what? Dylan Cease is turning a corner. You should probably go out there and trade for him. And guess what? Dylan Cease gets those Oakland Athletics that Domingo German no hit on July 1st, which is, I believe, upcoming this weekend. Dylan Cease's last looks like at least 5 starts have been fantastic. 2 of those being double-digit strikeout starts, one of those being a 9 strikeout start, and that one was against Texas where he gave up it looks like 2 runs over 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, a 1.17 whip. And the thing is if you haven't really fully been paying attention, you may be like, oh, Cease's numbers on the season are bad with the 4.04 ERA, 1.29 whip. The Ks are always great. That's what Dylan Cease does. But, he's turning the corner here. Do I think he's going to be one of the top 10 pitchers the rest of the way? Probably not. But, hey, can he finish the year as like a top 25 pitcher if he keeps it rocking and rolling? Of course he can. So Dylan Cease, definitely a must start for me for at least the foreseeable future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Cease is bouncing back. And, hey, if you got him, great. If you didn't, it is what it is. But you know what? This start is going to be fun. Let's move on, Dom. You did a great job. Let's talk about Mr. Ketel Marte. Marte has come out of nowhere and marted himself all the way into, fantasy glory. I mean, this last month has just been absolutely ridiculous. 31 runs, 8 home runs, 23 ribs, a stolen base, batting .319 on the month. His overall numbers for the season are pretty nice with 60, 15, 44, 6, and 294. Marte looks like he's just primed to keep going up against the Angels, who have been hit or miss into the weekend. I feel confident starting him. And you may say, oh, this may be a no-brain kind of type start. But honestly, if you look at Marte's past, you really haven't felt great about him over the last couple of years, except for maybe the COVID year. So, Marte has just been this out-of-nowhere guy, and I'll give you a little extra kind of tippy tip here. And honestly, if you can, I'd probably sell high on him because I don't think this is going to last. One of 2 things are going to happen. He's either going to cool the hell off, or my guy is going to get hurt and join Alberto Mondesi on the IL. So, it's one of the 2 things. So with that being said, bro, that's all I got to say on Ketel Marte.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to give my Ketel Marte rant because I do have a good one here. But before I go ahead and do that, I just want to inform you guys of who we have coming up next. We have probably one of the most least expected players for the Mets that we're going to talk about. We have a Minnesota Twins guy that Matt is not a fan of at all. And then we have that Houston Astros starting pitcher that, is one of my boys, and I've been very disappointed in this season coming up next. But before we do that, I have a great sponsor for you guys today, and it's FanDuel. Here at Locked On, we're super excited about our new sports betting partner, FanDuel. Baseball season is in full swing, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. There's no better place. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can wager on everything from Okay, I did not edit this correctly. That is my fault, guys. Then you can wager on everything from home runs to strikeouts and much, much more. Plus, FanDuel lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss your chance to get in on that no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started today. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. And guys, most importantly, everydayers and new listeners, we've got super exciting news for you regarding our podcast. Matt and I are thrilled to introduce our new campaign on the Subtext website, where we'll be offering a personalized and in-depth experience just for you. By subscribing to Locked On Fantasy Baseball on the Subtext website and becoming a member of the exclusive Everydayers Diamond Club, you'll gain unlimited direct access to us through one-on-one texting conversations. As part of the Diamond Club, you'll receive instant alerts and expert opinions on prospect call-ups, injuries, and detailed waiver wire recommendations. But that's not all. We'll also be promptly answering all your fantasy baseball questions, and we're here for you to talk baseball whenever you guys want. Subscribing to our Subtext service will give you a significant advantage over your competition and greatly increase your chances of winning an Everydayers championship. You can find the link to subscribe in the description of this video, podcast, and on our Linktree, which is available in all of our social media bios. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Sign up now for a free 14-day trial with Matt and I by your side. We'll help you bring home that coveted Everydayers championship. Join us on Subtext today. But all right, guys, I got to give a Ketel Marte take here. So at this point, I'm sure a lot of you guys listening know that feeling. You have that one ex-girlfriend that kind of had your heart for a while, and it was like the best moment of your life, and you were totally in love, head over heels, and then she just totally scorned you. Totally went out there, did some crazy stuff, and it made you feel really bad about yourself, and you were just done with it. Had wanted nothing to do with her. You moved on. You found somebody else. And then you get that phone call like a Friday night when you're by yourself, and it's her, and she's like, speaking all those sweet little things in your ear and, trying to build you up, and you start to fall again. I think that's where I'm at with Ketel Marte. I think I just got that phone call from Ketel Marte, and I'm on the fence now. I'm wobbling back and forth. I'm not sure if I'm going to go for it. I'm not sure if I still hate him. But you know what, man? I have him in one of my leagues, and I'm seeing those numbers on the year, and they're starting to excite me. It's reminding me a little bit of that 2019 All-Star season from Ketel Marte. Do I think he has 32 home run power anymore? Probably not. But, hey, if he hits 25 homers, if he gets you to 15 steals, he's a career 281 hitter. So if he gets you around that batting average, we all know that Diamondbacks lineup is a force with Corbin Carroll and all those other, Christian Walker. They just have a pretty solid lineup going on over there these days. So I think the runs where he has 60 runs is legit, 44 RBIs is legit. So Ketel Marte could be that guy. I definitely think you need to keep starting him for now, ride the wave, see where it goes. But as Matt said, if you can sell high on him, absolutely go for it and take advantage. But second base is so bad right now that I kind of wouldn't mind running Ketel Marte out there for the rest of the season. I do think he could be a top 10 second baseman the rest of the way. But Matt, I've talked a lot between the ads and my little Ketel Marte rant here. Do you want to grab this next guy?
Sure, absolutely. Let's talk about the name I never thought we'd be talking about again, and that's Mr. Tommy Pham. He's right there up there with Julio Torreon. you know, the names are forgotten past. It's like the ghost of Christmas past here.
And James Paxton this year too. It's just where are these guys coming from?
Oh, I know. It's just like, whoa, okay, let's bring back 2015 all over again. But Tommy Pham is making a little resurgence on the Mets. He's in a little hot streak right now, and he's going up against San Francisco over the weekend at home, which is good. And on top of that, you know, Logan Webb has already pitched yesterday, which is Wednesday for us, 2 days ago for you. So that means he's not going to see him this weekend, which is their best pitcher and their only pitcher, in my opinion. Logan Webb has taken a turn for ups and downs again. Deep Lascani is just there, and their fourth and fifth pitcher is just like, I don't know who the hell they are, so I don't care. Tommy Pham can continue this hot streak and roll out and keep doing his things, because over the last 2 weeks, he has 7 runs, 2 bombs, 8 ribs, 3 stolen bases, batting about 333. Batting average off the waiver wire, and on top of that, I mean, not for nothing, he's a good start this week if you needed a little quick start. 17% owned. So, you know, this is somebody that's probably out there. So if you're looking for a streamer, it's all good, man. Just wait your turn. Just wait. But last but not least, let me just finish this up.
It's my internet, Matt.
I know.
Totally my internet.
It's all good. It's all good. I took too long of a pause. But Tommy Pham pretty much is going to have a good weekend, essentially. And if you are dealing with injury or just don't feel great about who you have to roll out there in your flex, might want to pick up Tommy Pham for the weekend and see where it takes you. Now you can go.
Is it my turn? Is it my turn?
Yes. Next time, raise your hand, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, no, I got you. I got you, my brother. I got you. So with Tommy Pham, Matt, that's a great breakdown. You know, his power and speed combo that he notoriously does is, you know, back on track this year. And Matt, I think you covered him pretty well. Good batting average. The counting stats are going to be good on that Mets team. Not really too much I have to say. He is only 17% owned on Yahoo. So, you know, if you need a quick streamer, grab him. And I think Tommy Pham is going to be at least all right for the next couple of weeks. So now we're going to move on to a few guys that are, you know, sits, and we'll mention everybody for you that whether we think they're a sit or a start. But this next one is somebody I'm super disappointed in as well, and it's Carlos Correa. I mean, Carlos Correa has just been, you know, no other way to put it than, you know, pretty much garbage. He's been garbage this season, and that's not a trash can joke. But if you want to take it as a trash can joke, you could totally do that. So I thought, you know, Matt and I, one of the things that Matt and I always say on this podcast is that when a guy goes to a new team, you know, they have to make adjustments not only for the team that they're going to, but life adjustments. Sometimes we forget these guys are human, you know, new house, got to move the family, you know, adjust to living in a new area, all these basic human things that we don't give them enough credit for. So I thought our rule was going to apply here to Correa, but it absolutely has not, because, you know, he still has not fully adjusted and he's just playing like doo-doo. So over the last 30 days, Correa has 10 runs, 5 homers, 13 RBIs, 217 batting average. I totally think you could bench Carlos Correa for the foreseeable future. You know, if there's we've talked about a lot of great shortstops over the past, you know, month even. You know, Matt McLean, I'm starting over him, and Ezekiel Tovar, I'm starting over him. Any of these young shortstops that have been, you know, tearing the cover off the ball, I'm definitely starting over Correa. Honestly, he's almost getting to the point where it's a drop. I do think he will have a hot stretch at some point this season if he can stay on the field. But, you know, for the foreseeable future, until, you know, he really starts locking back in, I think you bench Carlos Correa.
Yeah, I mean, quite honestly, I drop him at this point. I really, outside of the counting stats that he's been doing over the last 2 weeks, because everybody like, oh, you're going to drop him. Dom says he's going to drop him. But look, his batting average is atrocious, and we all know these stats aren't going to stick. Let's just be honest here. So, like, Correa is just an outright drop. He's not good anymore. He's pretty much a joke. That's why he couldn't even get a deal with the team that he already signed a deal with. They had to back out. Twice. And then another team. Yeah, exactly. Another team do the exact same thing. Go back and just say, okay, I'm going to sign my option, guys. I'm going to take your money because I suck. So that's pretty much Carlos Correa. But let's just move on here. I don't want to, you know, keep going down the Correa rabbit hole. Let's move on. I'm going to let you know what's going on up next. So we got a few guys for next week. A bunch of pitcher matchups that whether we're going to start or sit them. And we got one last bat that's probably going to be a sit, and it's a huge disappointment this season. But until then, we're going to break. All right, and we're back. Thank you guys for bearing with us. You know, hey, this is how we keep the show going. So let's move on here. Let's talk about Mr. Tim Anderson, or Mr. Tim Disappointment. So Tim Anderson has had a season that we all didn't see coming, for based off of one reason and one reason only. Usually he's Mr. All Reliable. You know exactly what you're getting, right? Usually he'll get you a boatload of runs, a good amount of steals, hit for average, and you know that's pretty much just him for you in a nutshell. But this year, he's batting about 227. He only has about 8 stolen bases, has about 22 runs, and has about 11 ribbies with 0 home runs. He couldn't even chip in his nice little 6 that he had in last year. Like Tim Anderson looks like, doo-doo cocky. And it's just not looking great for Tim Anderson. Honestly, he's still 64% owned. Like I'm gonna give you a little, feel okay about this. Just drop him. Don't even think about adding him. If after the All-Star break he decides to turn it around, go ahead and pick him back up. Nobody is going to add this dude at all. So just dump him, move on. He's just taking up space on your roster. You don't need to have him. He's just an outright dump, and that's Tim Anderson for you.
Yeah, Tim Anderson's been super, super banged up the last 2 years. And, as Matt said, kind of one of the bigger disappointments in fantasy baseball because you thought he was good for at least helping you in 4 out of the 5 major hitting categories. And he hasn't done anything close to that. I honestly think he's still hurt. I think there's something wrong with him. He's been out a little bit of recent, he's kind of been sitting here and there. This year, I believe it was a knee issue for him, which you can kind of see if you can't really, plant that knee properly when you're swinging the baseball bat, you're not going to be really able to generate much power. Hence the 0 home runs so far this year. And 8 steals is pretty solid, but there's so much more out there where, I think I would feel ready to drop Tim Anderson. I play in a few deep leagues where he's available and nobody has even made the move to try and add Tim Anderson at this point. So I think you could feel safe about dropping Tim Anderson right now. Let me move on to this next guy, and this one is even more disappointing than Tim Anderson to me, to be honest with you, and Carlos Correa. It's Cristian Javier. And Cristian Javier, man, numbers are starting to look kind of bad on the season. I think we talked about him recently and told you to buy low on him. I'm still an advocate of that. But I think for the foreseeable future, if he's on your team already right now, you got to bench him, especially next week. He's going up against those Texas Rangers that are, arguably the best lineup in baseball. And he went out against St. Louis in his last, start, which was on June 28th. He gave up 6 runs, 8 hits, a walk. He only had 1 strikeout. Over his last 2 starts combined, Cristian Javier has only pitched 6.1 innings and has 2 strikeouts. That's combined over the last 2 starts. Last year, he was well over a K per 9. The ERA was great last year. The WHIP was great last year. The ERA this year is at a 3.72 already. So it's not a drop Cristian Javier. It's not a sell low on Javier. It's a bench him if he's on your team right now next week. After that, kind of let's see how the matchups go. Hopefully he can turn it on. He can find things. I know his velocity is down from last year. I think during the All-Star break, he's going to have to get in there with his pitching coaches and figure out what's going wrong here and really deep dive into, what he has to do to correct himself and get back on the right track. But Cristian Javier's whole career, he's been a very, very good starting pitcher. That doesn't just go away. So I don't think he's washed. And I really think that just, ride the wave here. Just, you're going to have to ride the harsh part of this right now. But I think he rebounds coming into that second half.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the rebound is inevitable. He's always been good. He's just never been given the shot. He got the Maeda and Strider treatment. They always kept him contained. So let's see. I'm not ready to give up on Javier. You can probably hopefully go out there and get him for cheap. But let's move on here. Great take, Dom. So about Mr. Shane Bieber. He has a tough matchup and a nice matchup. Let's put it this way for next week. He's going up against Atlanta. Not really happy about that, especially with the way he's been pitching. And then he's going up against Kansas City, who has just not been hot. And it's the same aspect I had with, Braxton Garrett, I said to go start him against because it's going to be the same ordeal. There's nobody in that lineup but Bobby Witt right now unless Perez gets hot between now and then, which, anything's possible. I still think Perez is going to bounce back. I just don't know when. But if he's still not performing, MJ Melendez can't put a bat to a ball. He's like Ray Charles out there trying to swing the bat. It's just not going to happen. So, I love the delayed laugh. It's great. So anyway,
that was good. That was hilarious.
Thank you. But anyway, Shane Bieber at 100%. I think if you're in a weekly league, I consider if you have a better option, that's somebody that you picked up that's probably performing better, has better matchups. If not, you're probably in a position where you just have to start him. At least he's having 2 starts next week. So like you probably could sit him against Atlanta and then roll him out. But at the same time, a couple weeks ago, he went out and performed against Houston. So like it's a catch-22. Do you miss out on the start and just say, okay, let him blow up on my bench, or let him have a great, rather see him have a great game on my bench than blow up in my lineup, especially early in the week. So that's kind of how you got to really just judge the situation. For me, I'm sitting him against Atlanta right now. And other news, I would say that I would try and trade for Shane Bieber. I think that he's going to have a really nice bounce back and eventually be matchup proof. I mean, the kid's been doing it for 3 years now. I mean, there's no reason that he shouldn't be bouncing back. I don't think anything's different other than the fact that maybe he's just anticipating getting traded, because that's what all sides are pointing to, especially with the way they're calling up their arms this year. So that's another incentive to go out and get him now, because him on another team that actually is competing, the skies are the limit with Shane Bieber. So, definitely take a look at Shane Bieber for a trade. And honestly, sit him against Atlanta, in my opinion, and definitely start him against Kansas City. You can go now, Dom.
Yeah, I agree with you on about 90%. Yeah, it's my turn. It's my turn. So, I don't know if I'm trading for Shane Bieber. I mean, we do know he's a good pitcher, but there's a lot of underlying things with Bieber that, over the last few years that, haven't really looked great as far as, velocity and, things like that. The FIP this year specifically, fielding independent pitching, if you're not familiar with that statistic, it's an ERA indicator, kind of gives you an idea where the ERA should be versus where it currently is. He's about half a run higher on the FIP than the ERA, and the ERA is 3.69, so the FIP is at a 4.13. The WHIP itself is a 1.23 this year. The strikeouts, K per 9 is way under a K per 9 at 77 strikeouts versus 100 innings pitched. He just hasn't looked like his old self, and I think, those underlying things are finally starting to catch up with him. Over his last 3 starts, 2 of them have been very bad. As Matt mentioned, the one against KC last time out was very good. So if you play in like a weekly league or a points league, yeah, I'll probably run Shane Bieber out next week. But if you play in a daily league where you could, change your guys in and out daily, I'd probably bench him against Atlanta. Then I'll put him back in against Kansas City because he already showed he could dominate against Kansas City. But he has been getting hit hard against some of these good teams like Arizona, like Milwaukee, like Baltimore. The White Sox, hit him up a couple of weeks ago. So, I don't trust Shane Bieber against these good teams. He's kind of like a matchup kind of play for me these days. So that's my thoughts on Shane Bieber. But to move on to this last guy, somebody that has just returned from the IL, it's Kenta Maeda. And, the thing is that some people might be looking at his, year-long stats and see that 6.23 ERA, that 1.46 whip, and be like, oh my God, Kenta Maeda, he's horrible. But Kenta Maeda gets those same Kansas City Royals next weekend. Matt kind of gave you the lowdown on them already. If it's not Bobby Witt or Salvador Perez, the rest of that lineup is, kind of like almost a AAA lineup at this point. So I think Maeda, he's only 32% owned on Yahoo. I think you could actually feel free to go out there and grab Kenta Maeda and see where this train goes. But I'm definitely starting Kenta Maeda next week against Kansas City for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the same reasons I talk about rolling out Shane Bieber against Kansas City is the same reason Maeda can do it. I think he's getting them on, if I had to take a guess, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
Whenever the 4th of July is, that's when he's scheduled to start. I don't know what day that is though.
Tuesday. So that's good actually, because
Gotcha.
I think he's going to get a second start then, so he may be a 2-start pitcher rolling up against.
Let's see. I could
rolling up against probably the Orioles on Saturday or Sunday.
Yep.
Sunday. So,
wait, hold on.
No, they're skipping.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, yeah, because the thing is they don't play on the 6th. So It will only be 4 games before the All-Star break. So he won't start again till after the All-Star break. It looks
okay.
Like.
So yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I didn't have that up in front of me. Sorry, guys. But
Gotcha.
Thank you. Kenta Maeda, I mean, is definitely a start for next week. Honestly, like in a weekly league where you have to make a decision, I think that start is going to be worth enough to start him over some fantasy assets. That matchup is almost too juicy to pass up on. So Maeda is a must start. Hopefully I didn't repeat anything Dom said, but anyway, Dom, take it away, sir.
Yeah, guys. Once again, before we wrap up, I just have to say this because it's a once in a lifetime thing. Shout out to Domingo German. That was just one of. I didn't get to watch the whole game, but I did see the tail end of it, and it was just super impressive. Shout out to Domingo on that perfect game. But guys, that is all for us today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And to our everydayers and new listeners, thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. And once again, lastly, but most importantly, subscribe to us on Subtext. If you want to get right away alerts when one of these top prospects get called up, if you need takes on injuries, extra waiver wire guys, even if you just want to talk to Matt and myself about how your fantasy baseball team looks, if you guys just want to talk about baseball, if you want to talk about the all-star starters, you want to talk about the home run derby, anything, subscribe to us on Subtext. You can find that link in all of our social media bios and attached to this podcast, video, or wherever you're listening to us. But guys, once again, make sure you tune in for a new episode on Monday where we give you the best must-add waiver wire players from the weekend. But now that is officially all until then. So folks, see you.
Peace.